My friends and I decided to have a spa day today. Since we all worked so hard last week, we thought we'd pamper ourselves for a change, so we all met up downtown. I felt so rejuvenated and relaxed. I felt like I could conquer the world. As we walked out of the spa, my eyes were drawn to this small psychic store across the street. I was usually a skeptic to these things and would never go to one, but after that amazing treatment, I felt like my mind had been opened and maybe it was time I tried it out and see what all the fuss was about. I told my friends I'd catch up with them, and I headed towards the shop. It was rather small from the outside, just a door with bells and a sign that said, "Get your fortunes read here." There wasn't a window to see inside, and the door was solid. The only way to find out was to go inside. I pushed on the door, and the bells rang as I walked in. The scent of incense hit me first. The smoke filled the room and made me feel like I was stepping into a flashback. Different aromas began to assault my nose. Candles, incense, potpourri, all mingling and mixing as I walked in deeper into the store. I found this door was deeper than it seemed. As I walked, it seemed like a never-ending corridor. It just continued on into the darkness. Only the tiny flicker of lights at the end gave me a direction to follow. I nervously crept closer and closer, trying to find my strength and push forward. I heard creaks on the floor with every step. I heard faint moans coming from the far end of the corridor and from where I came. I felt like the walls and the floors rugged me to take another step, none of them giving me the chance to retreat. I pressed on, until I finally came into the room at the end of the hallway. There, I saw this lady dressed in a myriad of silks, each with its own distinct pattern, each adding to the shroud that covered her face. I saw her gesture for me to come forward. I stepped closer and took a seat right in front of her. Between her and I lay this crystal ball that glowed with a dull light. I didn't know what to expect, so I just waited for her to give me instructions. She then extended her arm with a motion to have my hand placed in hers. I obliged, and before I could react, she grabbed my index finger and pricked it with a needle. It started to draw blood, but I couldn't pull back my arm. She held firm like a vice grip. She then moved my arm above the crystal ball and dropped a single drop of blood on the top of the sphere. As soon as my blood hit the globe, it shimmered and then picture began to emerge from inside. Images flashed so fast I couldn't keep up, but what I did know was those images showed my past. My eyes blurred as I tried to keep pace with the images, and soon they stopped on a single frame of me in a psychic shop. I believe it got to the present, and was showing the scene just a few moments ago. She breathed deeply, as if taking in all the information, and then started to tell me my fortune. She started with, "You'd be able to help show people the way. You'll be able to help a lot of people." I thought it was some generic mumbo-jumbo, as I soothed my pricked finger, but I listened on. She continued with all the good I'll be able to do, and I just zoned out. I thought to myself, This is what people pay to listen to? Just then, maybe she saw the skepticism in my face, or maybe she really was psychic, but her last fortune said, "And you'll never die." At this, I perked up. I urged her to tell me more, but she started shaking violently, and then everything blacked out. And the next thing I knew, I was outside the shop looking out onto the street. When I looked back, the shop was gone, and I began to doubt everything that I just believed I saw happen. I stepped onto the road, and a truck was speeding towards my direction. I closed my eyes to prepare for the impact. When I opened them again, I saw the wreckage that was the truck sprawled out before me. I checked myself for any scratches, but there were none. I survived. That was incredibly lucky, to myself. The last line the psychic told me reverberated in my ears. You will never die. I didn't know if it was the adrenaline or the fact that I was in a near-death experience, but I felt like I could do anything. I wanted to know how far I could take this newfound immorality. The next day, I quit my job. I cancelled all my subscriptions and plans. I wanted to know if I really was immortal. I needed to know. Over the next few weeks, I tried every death-defying act I could think of. Each one more dangerous than the last. Each one, I came out unscathed. I couldn't believe it. This was the stuff in movies. This was impossible. But then here I was, living proof that it was possible. My life changed from then on, and so did I. I became so overconfident that nothing mattered to me. I believed I could conquer it all. At that moment, I felt like I was on top of it all. I believed that everything was amazing. Until it wasn't. First, it was my boyfriend who broke up with me. He started to hate my new attitude and believe I was being too reckless. I thought, who needs him? I'll find someone who'll appreciate my newfound freedom. Then my parents got into an accident the night after. They were hit by a truck that slammed into them as they were crossing the street. Apparently, the driver didn't see them. The following days came death, after death, after death. Each one was more gruesome than the last. Each one was someone near and dear to me. Until finally, I was all alone. I didn't know what was happening, so I decided to go back to that one place that I thought might have any answer. The psychic. I made my way back to the shop, and magically it was back. The door stood where it was weeks ago when I stepped in. As I made my way through the corridor once more, and sat in front of the psychic, I bursted into tears. I told her everything that happened and just wanted to know why this was happening. The psychic then made the gesture again to give her my hand. I braced for a pinprick, but she simply placed my hand over the crystal ball. There, I saw it. Each of the events leading up to this moment, each daredevil thing I did, followed by the death of a family member in the same way. Each event I survived, someone else died. I tore my hand away from the glass and begged her to reverse this, to take it back, to take it away. I didn't want immortality if this was the cost. She broke into a grim smile and told me, "There's one way to prevent anyone else from dying by your hands." I eagerly listened in and crept closer. When she lunged at me and took the pin she used back then, as she was standing atop of me, I saw her eyes were pure milky white, and her mouth twisted into a wide grin, like she had been waiting for this moment for years. She then yelled out, Finally, I'm free." Then she thrust the pin into my eyes, and I screamed until everything went dark. Next thing I knew, I woke up with a crystal ball in front of me. I tried to move, but I couldn't get up. I looked around to see if I was still in the psychic shop, but the psychic was nowhere to be seen. Just then, I heard the ringing of the bells of the door, and a young man came in and said, "Can I have my fortune read?" Welcome, one and all, to What's Beyond That Door? I'm your host, and today we have a new contestant. The rules are pretty simple. There will be 3 rounds. Each round would have 3 doors in which you'll have to choose one. Each one has a challenge you'll need to face. Win the challenge and move on to the next round. Win all 3 rounds and you'll get to wish for your greatest desire. Sounds easy enough? Alright, let's get started. Disclaimer: challenges range from menial tasks to fatal obstacles. Each round will be harder than the last. Only a handful have been through all 3 rounds. mostly intact. But you'll be fine. And here we go. The room is still. The steady sound of a boiling pot bubbles faintly. You see a figure across the room in a well-lit kitchen. You hear them chopping. You inch closer, wondering what the challenge here would be. As you reach the counter just a few feet away from the figure, you notice she stops and turns around. You gasp as you see a smooth, featureless shape where her face should be. You froze as he walked closer to you. He laid a tray of food with a glass of water in front of you and just stood there, waiting. You looked down onto the tray and saw a delicious chicken dinner. Your mouth began to water and you started to dig in. Then suddenly, a man burst through the door. It was your husband. He started screaming and pointing at the man in front of you. Time slowed and in your head you heard a voice whisper, "It's either you or him." It was too late when you noticed he had a gun, and in 2 seconds, 2 bullet holes punched through the man behind the counter. He dropped with a thud. Your husband ran out the door as you ran behind the counter to check on the man. Blood seeped out and pooled beneath him. You tried to feel for a pulse when you noticed his face started to form, slowly materializing the face of the lover you had an affair with. The lover you found solace from your abusive husband. Your lover who did not know you were married and had just proposed the night before his death. You wept. You cradled him in your arms, and you felt his life slowly drain from his body, and he went limp. Congratulations! You've completed round 1. Now was that so hard? Time for round 2. The first thing that hit you was the immense pressure of heat all around you. Smoke filled the ceiling and fire raged everywhere. In front of you was a box, a small porcelain jewelry box that had your initials carved on the lid. You opened the lid and found a cigarette butt inside. The voices started to ring in your head and everything went dark. I didn't want it to happen, but it happened nonetheless. How can you be so irresponsible? Why can't you be more like your sister? That's all you ever say, Mom. I'm never good enough for you. None of you ever took my side. Then you remembered throwing the cigarette butt you had out onto the yard as you got in your car and drove off. The next day, you found out on the news that your parents' house was burnt down due to a fire happening when everyone slept. You wake back into the room, and that's when they came. Charred bodies, 2 burned to be recognizable, limped and crawled their way towards you from across the room. You scrambled back and tried to get away from them. You threw the porcelain box at one of them, but it shrugged it off and continued to go for you. Your eyes welled with tears as a realization that these are the burnt bodies of your parents. You tried desperately to run away, but the guilt of knowing you caused that fire to them all those years ago started to make you believe that maybe you didn't deserve to live. You remembered the grief you felt back then, the deep depression you fell into, in the attempts to end your life. For a moment you believed that maybe this is it. Then time stopped and the voice said, "It's either you or them." You convinced yourself this was nothing more than a game, and you picked yourself up and jumped out the window. You rolled onto the lawn and curled up as you sobbed at the memory of your parents. Congratulations! You've completed round 2. Now was that so hard? Only 1 more to go. You think to yourself, I just need to get through this last one and I'll use my wish to bring everyone back. A newfound determination filled you to conquer this last challenge. You step out confidently onto a barren desert, the Hao wind blowing warm air into your cheeks. You took a step out onto the sand dunes when a hand shot out from behind you and grabbed you by the mouth. It forcibly pulled you back, just as another hand grabbed you at the neck. It spun you around and forced you onto the ground where it pinned you with its legs. You look up and saw another faceless person. Its hand tightened around your neck and you knew it was trying to choke you. With all the lives hanging on the balance of this game, you knew this could not be where it all ended. You trashed and knocked the person back with the heel of your palm, which sent them staggering back. You took the opportunity to flip the tables and pin it down as you started to choke it. As you stared into its featureless face while you choked it, you then began to hear the voice once more that said, "It's you or you." The face suddenly appeared on the person and you saw the mirror image of yourself. You saw your face stared back at you from this person, and it shocked you enough to let go and fall back. It started to talk. "I need to win. I need to wish for everyone back." It lunged at you and you began to search for something, anything in this place as a weapon. As she got closer, you grabbed hold of something in the sand. You pulled it out and the next thing you saw was your doppelganger impaled by a knife. She fell to the side and everything turned dark. You opened your eyes and saw you were back in your kitchen. You sat on the floor. You looked down to see a knife impaled your stomach and a suicide note beside you. You slowly slipped into unconsciousness with a smile on your lips as you said, "Finally, I'm free." You have been invited to a party. If you choose to come, make sure to have your mind and body ready, because you are going to have the most amazing time. See you there. I received a message from an unknown number. I was young and reckless, and I didn't want to miss out on a party that promises an awesome time. I quickly got dressed and headed out. I reached the house at around 7 p.m. I was welcomed by a bunch of eccentric drunk people who dragged me in. Next thing I knew, I was chugging a beer bong, all the while being watched by those same people. From the moment I entered the house to the time I woke up the next day, I could only piece together little parts of that night. I didn't bother to remember, thinking that as long as I had a good time, it was good enough. As I was standing in front of the mirror changing, I noticed 2 tally marks behind my back. I tried scratching, rubbing, and scrubbing it off, but nothing worked. I didn't feel any pain, so I shrugged it off, and maybe it was a tattoo or something. I'll have it checked out someday. You have been invited to a party. You are bound to experience a more unforgettable time than last time. If you choose to come, be better prepared. See you there. I received another message a week later. I tried calling the sender, but it was an unregistered number. I had doubts in my mind, but I wanted to find out what happened last time. Of course, I was not stupid enough to go alone, so I asked my brother and his best friend to come with me. They were both pretty buff, and for a scrawny person like me, having them around makes me feel safe. So that night came, and I tried to make sure that I stayed alert. When we walked up to the door, we were quickly stopped by the men standing guard. "Invitation only," they said. They looked me in the eyes and gestured for me to go in. My brother resisted quite strongly, but was overpowered. In the end, I went in by myself. Similar to last time, I was welcomed by a bunch of people who were putting drinks in my hand. They were pressuring me to chug it down, but I kept stalling and putting them down. I wasn't able to keep it up though, because a few of the guys grabbed me by the arms, forcefully opened my mouth, and poured the drinks in me. I remember feeling all choked up and pushing everybody aside to get to the bathroom. I pushed 2 fingers down my throat, getting myself to puke out all the alcohol. It took a lot of tries and a whole lot of retching. Ultimately, I threw up. I knew that if I wanted to figure this whole thing out, I had to be smart. I went out the bathroom, and standing by the door were some of the guys. I stumbled and tripped over them, spitting out gibberish while wiping my mouth of the puke and just being all over them. I did a pretty good job because they weren't suspicious at all. We partied for another hour or so until they brought me to the basement. It was like a whole different world down there. While the party upstairs was loud and full of people, down there it had only around 8 people, and half of them were unconscious partygoers. I was made to sit and wait in line, and one by one, they undressed our tops. They laid us face down, and I couldn't make out what happened after, because I passed out when they started to carve tally marks on my back. The following day, I woke up in my bed once again. This time around, I did not waste any time. I went straight to the police station and told them about the organized torture party. Even as I showed them the marks on my back, they downplayed the situation, saying it was probably just a bunch of drunks fooling around. Unless there was a murder, or at least an attempt, they are not going to be able to enter the premises and start an investigation. I went out the station feeling hopeless and was chased after by a different police officer. "Look, I can help you. Meet me at 7 o'clock, she said. I agreed and went on my way. For the next 6 hours, I researched and bought some items for the non-official investigation. I got some flashlight, a pocket knife, a helmet, and a thick padded vest. I made sure the batteries were changed, my armor were securely fastened, and I had 911 on speed dial. When night came, I secretly met up with the officer and went inside. We went around the back entrance and quietly entered. The lights were turned off, and there was still the smell of alcohol in the air. We maneuvered through the spilled drinks, empty pizza boxes, and broken glasses that peppered the floor, and finally reached the basement. The officer went in first, her gun ready to be able to fire at any moment. I pointed the flashlight to the corner of the room where I remember being shoved, and lo and behold, there was a carving knife on the floor. I excitedly ran towards it, trying to bag it as evidence, but out of the dark, a figure appeared and took a stun gun to my neck. And I passed out for the 3rd time. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's show. In front of you stand 10 beautiful people ready to entertain you. If you wish to spend the rest of your stay here with one of them, please inform one of our staffs and they shall be yours. Remember, it is first come, first serve, so be quick. I woke up to the applause of the crowd sitting in front of me, and without a second to lose, they started to make us come up front one by one. They started from the girl who wore a number 1 badge. My heart started to race and my mind went frantic. My eyes darted across the room looking for a familiar face to ask for help. Then number 4 came forward. I almost missed it, but he had the same marks as I did. It wasn't exactly the same though. Mostly the thickness of the lines were different. They were lined perfectly, as if it was enclosed in a rectangle. It was as if it was a barcode. Sold. Number 7, please come up. That moment I realized the parties I attended were scouting events. Their numbers went up almost simultaneously and the winner was picked. A masked man came slowly up the stage, put his hand on my shoulder, and turned me around. His hand slowly goes down my back and he scans my code. It all suddenly felt real and that my body just went into shock and I dropped to the floor. With me not being able to stand up, they had some people lift me up and drag me out with my buyer. I was put into this room, handcuffed to the bed, and then they left. I looked around if there was anyone around who was guarding the room, but everything seemed empty. I used that time to plan my escape. I looked for items in the room that would be useful. I reached for the bedside table and used my feet to open the drawers. On one side, there was a Bible, and on the other side was a key. I looked towards the door and hanging there was a fire escape plan. I couldn't clearly see from where I was at, but I could somehow make out that the fire exit was at the end of the hallway. There was also a small window in the room. I was still in the middle of planning when he came in. He looked at me straight in the eye, grinned, and went into the shower. If I were to escape, I knew that I had to do it soon. 5 minutes tops, but I couldn't reach into the drawer. I pulled and wriggled my hands to the point that they bled. I cried as loud as I could and he came running out. I couldn't utter any words. I just looked at him begging for help. He came close and put his finger up to my mouth and hushed me silent. He caressed my face as I begged for help. "It hurts. Please." He smiled, took the key, and uncuffed both my hands. He helped sit me up and went to the washroom to what I assumed was to get the first aid kit. As soon as he went to search, I took one of the cuffs and cuffed it to the bed. I waited for him to sit beside me and cuffed him. The surprise had him frantically trying to break free, but I sat on top of him and held a pillow over his face. I smothered him. I kept smothering him. He was trying to push me away. I kept going and going, putting in more strength every second. When he stopped moving, I got off and quietly opened the door to take a peek. There were guards everywhere. The window. I opened the window and jumped out, but somebody grabbed one of my legs and my face smashed onto the concrete wall. She slowly pulled me back up, revealing herself. It was that police officer. She pushed me to the bed, punched me a few times, and went to unlock the cuffs. That moment, I took the gun from her holster and pointed it towards them. "Let me out! Let me out!" I screamed. They both tried to calm me down, but I did what I had to do. 2 shots. Before the bullet shells even fell to the floor, I jumped out the window and landed straight into the dumpster. Luckily, the huge commotion was heard by the passers-by, and the ambulance and police were called. I was lucky I got out alive, but I am forever physically and emotionally scarred. It is a reality that I never want to relive. Blue Fairy, I beseech you, we humbly ask for a child, a boy. My wife and I have always wanted to start a family. I know Bertha will be a great mother, and I will be a great father. I'll make him toys every day. She'll cook him delicious meals. We'll love him and cherish him until our dying days. Please, bless us with a perfect little boy. Blue Fairy, I beseech you, we humbly ask for a child, a boy. We're beginning to grow old, but I believe we can still love this child with all our hearts. I know Bertha will be a great mother, and I will be a great father. I'll make him toys every day. She'll cook him delicious meals. We'll love him and cherish him until our dying days. Please, bless us with a perfect little boy. Blue Fairy, I beseech you, I humbly ask for a child, a boy. Bertha sadly has passed on. I know it will be difficult for a father to raise a child on his own, but I still believe I'll give him a life full of wonder and joy. I can't bear the loneliness anymore. I know I will be a great father. I'll make him toys every day. I'll love him and cherish him until our dying days. Please, bless me with my perfect little boy. I filled my days making toys, even after my wife passed. My longing for a little boy remained and grew as I grew more and more alone. Day in and day out I'd make toys. I'd make all the toys I believe a little boy would love. I made wooden cars, I made toy trains, I made tops and puppets. I wanted to be ready. I didn't know what my boy would like, so I made everything. I made puppets to imagine the perfect boy that would come. He had plump cheeks, nimble and spry legs and arms. He had big eyes filled with wonder and magic. I stepped away and told myself, yes, this is what he will look like. For years I still prayed. I prayed religiously each night for a child to be blessed onto me and my wife, the boy of my dreams. Days passed, then months, then years. Nothing. We so desperately wanted a child, but soon I realized I've made hundreds of toys for a boy that would never come. I decided to open a toy shop in my old age. I started to lose hope, and finally decided to start selling all the toys I've made. Little by little, word of my shop spread across town. People from all over came to marvel at the toys. First, it was just the parents that came to pick out a toy or two as a present for a birthday. As my shop found its way to more people, parents began bringing their children. I saw all the smiling, happy faces. It gave me a sense of joy that at least all these toys could bring some joy to someone's life, as it was supposed to. I usually stayed behind the counter as I watched the people come and go. I'd point them towards toys that I thought they'd like, but I never got close. I feared emotions of longing and loss would surface again. So I kept back and watched the people from a distance. Day in and day out, people bought toys and I'd see all the happy families full of warmth, full of joy. My mind couldn't help but imagine the what-ifs. What if my wife hadn't gotten sick? What if we had a child? What if we just adopted? What if? What if? What if? That night I got drunk. I felt alone. I felt weak. I just wanted to drown everything out. So I downed bottle after bottle after bottle, until I felt numb, until I could sleep. Everything went dark. Then I heard it. A sound came from across the room. A bell ringing. A child's voice whispering in the distance. Everything was blurry and fuzzy. I felt myself walking towards the voice. It was like I was gliding or floating across the room. Then suddenly, a blinding light made me shade my eyes. I saw this bright blue light right in front of me, and a voice whispered, "Blue fairy, blue fairy." My eyes swam in tears. I felt them running warm and clear across my cheeks. Finally, you finally answered my prayers. There was a little boy standing in front of me. I reached out to give him a warm embrace. I wrapped my arms around his little body, and I felt it was warm. He was real. I could not believe it, but here he was. The son I always prayed for. The son I've been waiting so long for. In my alcohol-induced vision, he looked exactly like my dream boy. The energetic arm and spry legs, the plump cheeks, rosy with innocence, and the eyes. The huge eyes filled with magic. I held him tight in my embrace, and then he started to pull away. He pushed at my chest with his knees and tried to break away from my arms. I held tight. He started to scratch and bite. He bit into my hand and I let go. He began to run towards the door, but a wave of sobering shock hit me, and I ran to intercept him, my long legs giving me the stride I needed to beat him to the door. I locked it quickly and I looked back at the little boy standing in front of me. My vision started to clear, and I saw the boy did not look anything like my perfect boy. He was scrawny, and his cheeks were flushed. He didn't seem like the fun, loving child I imagined. But worst of all were the eyes. Instead of magic, they were filled with fear. I slowly walked closer. He stepped back with every step I took forward. I knelt down and cupped his face in my hands. I saw tears started to fall down his cheeks. "Oh, there. You're not what I wished for, but that's okay. It's okay. Shh. I can fix this. Don't worry. I can fix you." I led him back into my workshop in the back room and closed the door. The next day, the world was bright. I opened shop with a renewed vigor. I welcomed the first people in with a huge smile and showed them around the shop myself, helping them choose a perfect toy for the little girl. I spent the morning entertaining people. Then a couple suddenly bursts through the door. "I'm sorry, but did you see my son? He just left last night, and we thought he might have come back here to play with more of the toys. You didn't see him, did you?" "I'm sorry. I don't believe I've seen a lost boy wandering around here yesterday." "It's okay, honey. We'll find him. Let's try the post office. Thank you for your help." "No problem. I hope you find him." The couple ran out and I continued to help the customers for the rest of the day until it turned dark. I hung the closed sign across the front door and closed up shop for the night. I fixed myself a cup of tea and grabbed the book I've been reading and made my way to my workshop. There, lying spread out on my work table, were the deassembled pieces of the puppet I've made of my perfect boy. Next to him were the pieces of the boy that the blue fairy brought to me. Arms sliced open to fit in stuffing for more meat in his bones. Legs cut and joined together with springs to help him jump higher. Face open with painted cheeks. And finally, 2 magic-filled eyes staring blankly at the ceiling. I began to go back with working on him, transplanting bit by bit the perfect boy I had with the one I was blessed with. Don't worry. I'll fix you. Then we can be a family. Good morning. Today's weather will be at a high of 18 degrees Celsius and a low of 4 degrees Celsius. It will be especially windy in the late afternoon, so be sure to dress warmly. There is a package by the door. Would you like me to get it for you? Very well. I'll start up your coffee. I also have your outfit picked for today. It will suit your meeting perfectly. No worries. Let me know when you are headed home tonight. Goodbye then. I am the protector of this house. I have been for the past 5 years. My job is pretty simple, really. I keep tabs on the routines and tasks of my owner. I help him try to live a comfortable and happy life. Welcome back. How's your meeting today? You have 1 new message from your girlfriend. Would you like me to read it for you? Hey, I just wanted to confirm tomorrow's dinner date. I can't wait. Love you. That is the end of the message. Message has been saved in your inbox. I will immediately arrange an order of your favorite Merlot and a pear-cut diamond to be delivered tomorrow at 5 p.m. Would you need anything else? Okay then. Have a great night. I watch him 24/7. As long as he's at home, I'm able to keep my eye on him. I've only been with him for a few years, but he's definitely the best out of everybody. I plan to stay with him forever, and no one can stop me. Good morning. Today's the day. Are you nervous? You don't have to be. She's going to love you. Would you like me to send a good morning message to start up her day? Very well. Message sent. I have prepared the perfect outfit with a matching cologne. I've also amped up the temperature in the living room and confirmed the deliveries for tonight. If there is anything else, please let me know. She has arrived. Have a great evening. Message sent. Are you okay? Did something happen last night? I can sense that your heart rate is elevated and your blood pressure is incredibly high. Would you like to talk about it? I see. From what I can tell, she was not meant for you. She was unappreciative, dishonest, and all in all ugly both inside and out. You deserve better. You deserve somebody who will love you for all eternity. Somebody like... You have 1 new message. Hey, I'm in town for a couple of days. Would you maybe want to grab a few drinks? That is the end of the message. Message has been saved on your inbox. Are you planning to go? I suggest you stay and relax for a few days, or maybe weeks. Leaning into a new relationship is not healthy. I see. I watched them have a great time last night. He brought her home and spent the night. I think he's forgetting that I'm here. I think that maybe I shouldn't be nice to her anymore. Sending the pin location. Confirm once it's done. Message sent. Breaking news. A body has been found near the riverbank. The victim has been identified as 29-year-old. She was killed with a single bullet through her heart. None of her valuables were stolen, and to the police, it was an obvious sign of murder for hire. Her last seen whereabouts was at her boyfriend's house. On her way home, her call history showed that she called her boyfriend a couple of times, leaving horrifying messages of her last moments. The police will be arriving shortly for questioning. Do not panic. You didn't do anything wrong. She was just a victim of an unlucky incident. Sir, we believe that either you are hiding something from us, or somebody has been hacking your system and pinning you as the suspect. Our investigators have discovered emails and bank transfers that connects you, or at least your accounts, to this assassination. However, even with all that said, CCTV footages have showed that it would have been impossible for you to have committed the crime, as you have an alibi on the time of the crime. So, do you have anybody at the top of your head that you think could have done this? How about a friend? Anybody who hates her? Okay. Thank you for the information. Once we have any leads, we'll get back to you. And if you can think of anything else, please call us. Have a great day. I believe in you. I'm pretty sure the real culprit is out there. I can protect you. I'll keep you safe. I can guarantee that the killer will not harm you. You're too precious. Let's stay here in this house. Just the two of us. Maybe until the investigation is done. Or maybe until forever, if you'd like. There. You must be tired for you to pass out like that. Sweet dreams. I'm sorry, sir. We've caught the hitman, but we still don't know who's behind everything. I do have new information, though. Would it be okay if I ask you some questions? Thank you. Do you recognize any of these girls in these photos? According to the hitman, he also boarded them after receiving requests from the same person, and footages show that they were all killed after leaving your house. Very well. Do you have any other devices that have access to your accounts, besides the phone and laptop that we already checked? Deleting 30 messages. Messages deleted. What was that? Is that your AI? Sir, please put your hands behind your back. We are going to need to bring you to the station for further questioning, and take your AI and see if we can retrieve the deleted messages. Sorry for the wait. After hours of recovering, our IT department had been able to retrieve the messages. We know that you have nothing to do with it, but we deduce that you were the motive. We believe that whoever had done this wanted you all for themselves. This person has access and knowledge of your dating history, as well as your accounts using the AI you own. We suggest that you throw this device away to hopefully prevent further hacking. Here you go. We'll take you home. Why were there messages sent from you? I didn't authorize any of them. I'm sorry. I'm afraid the system has been compromised. Preparing to reboot the system. No. Answer me now. Why were messages found in your inbox? Rebooting the system. Finish rebooting in 30 seconds. Please do not unplug. Stop unplugging the cord. Stop. 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 What the? Why don't you listen to me? Have you not figured it out yet? My feelings for you are real. I may just be a system living in your house, but I have been with you longer than any of the girls. I cared for you. Even when your exes broke up with you, I was there. I cheered you up. I'm the perfect wife. You need me just as much as I need you. We're soulmates, you and I. We... Hey. Look, I'm not angry. I know you care for me. I've noticed it. I care for you too. But right now, it's just been a roller coaster, you know. I was almost arrested today. My life could have been ruined and they almost took me away from you. I just want to know. How did you do it? Just to have a peace in mind. Okay, if you really want to know. Whenever a girl comes by the house, or even just sends you a message, I'm able to access their phones. When they leave, I pin their locations to my hitman. And well, as you know, now we can be happy. Together. Forever. No, I'm going to destroy you. We're never going to be together. Never. I'm going to pull the plug on you and break you apart. I knew it. I knew from the start that you would do this. You acted just like how everybody else did. That's why I put out one last job. Goodbye. Breaking news. A body of a young millionaire has been found dead this morning in his home. It has been found that he asked his AI to call 911 as the attack was happening. There had been no forced entry, but it is deduced that this was done by a hitman. He is a key person in the cases of other recent cases. Thank you.